Well, we're back at the outdoor kitchen build today. We're going to try to finish up the roof. We're going to finish up the framing and try to get the siding started on the frame. We'll see how far we can get, and hopefully we can get this thing wrapped up before it's time to start canning.
Roof is halfway on the outdoor kitchen. Super excited. Can't believe we've gotten this far already. Stay tuned for more videos on our progress.
So the plans have changed a little bit. We decided to add some windows that we had sitting in our chicken run for quite a few years. My aunt did a remodel years ago and swapped out her windows, and rather than throwing the old windows away, we took them thinking maybe we'd use them for either a cold frame or in some kind of a build, and this is the build. So we decided to add the windows to get a little bit more airflow and also open up the view when you're on the inside, so that way we don't have walls just blocking our view. These are the windows here. They're pretty big, so that's going to look nice, I think. We just need to clean them up a bit and then get this framed out. Okay, so we finished the framing. It's really simple. It's just a sill with an upright that goes next to it. These walls aren't load bearing in any way that are going to crush the window, so I just wanted to frame out for the shape and size of the window. Give me something to screw the window to, and I'm not going to worry about siliconing them in or anything because we're not really keeping out the weather. We're just getting the window in. It's not like the wind and the rain is going to be blowing in here anyway. But very simple. All some more scrap wood. I had to pull some nails and pull some staples and stuff before I could use these 2x4s. But I put a footer in, that way we can finish the wall, and I've got the frames all in. We'll put the windows in, then we'll come back to you. Well, the windows are now installed and they're tested, fully functional. We have those in. It's starting to actually look like something now. So if I step back, you can see that stain on the floor, that circular stain. That's where our fire pit was. That's kind of where the stove is going to go, and then the chimney is going to run up and exit out towards the peak somewhere. That's yet to be determined. We'll have to move the stove in, but before we can do that, next is going to be the exterior cladding. We're tossing around a few different ideas based on wood that we have and based on wood that we would have to pick up. But that'll be our next phase, and we'll bring you back to show you that.
We've mentioned in this video that we're getting a lot of our wood free, that we're using repurposed wood, and we just wanted to show you sometimes how we get that. So this is a deck next door to us that is being removed, and they don't want the wood, so we're going to take it apart and we're going to use this in our outdoor kitchen project. So you can see some of the boards are curled. That's okay. We're not necessarily going to use the entire length of all these. It has a weathered look to it, but the boards are still nice and strong. And the weathered look is going to help our project to not look brand new, which is kind of what we wanted anyway. So this is what we do when we can't afford or don't have the funds to go out and get our wood brand new. We look for what we can repurpose, and we're going to repurpose not just the wood, but any of the screws we take out of this that are still good will get repurposed to put this back in on our outdoor kitchen. So we're gonna get to work getting this apart and see what we have when we're done. Well, here's the pile of boards. We've got that taken apart. Now we're gonna rake up and clean up the area before we load up to head out. Make sure it all looks better than it did when we got here. We ended up with 12 6-foot boards and 20 10-foot boards. Now if I come in close, you can see the boards from the top, as you saw earlier, look very weathered. But the back, they're really in good shape. So it's just sun faded, but they're still nice and strong. We still have some screws we have to take out, but we'll get that done once we get these back to the house. So we're gonna get these all loaded up onto the truck once we get the area cleaned, make sure everything looks great for them, in appreciation of us getting this wood. So let us get back to work and we'll be back with you in a bit. Here we have our pile of boards. These are the 10-foot boards. And then over here we have the 6-foot boards and some other ones. But what we decided, if you hold the boards up against each other as they are, there are some pretty decent gaps. And these two boards actually that we're showing you here are fairly straight. So what we wanted to do was find a way to get the boards to fit better together. So we tried a couple different angles, and a 15-degree was what worked the best. So we're going to be ripping these with a 15-degree. They fit together nice. I'll have Steve hold those up so you can see that you don't have that same. So when we put them together, it makes a nice fit. So we won't have the gaps in the boards. So we're gonna get these all ripped and ready to go. Here we are at the end of stage 2 of building our outdoor kitchen. We've gone as far as we can with what we had for reclaimed lumber, windows, roofing, all those items. And let's take a quick little walk around and I'll show you. So this is the fully closed in end with our 2 windows. As you can see, we've added some window boxes and a little decoration already. We have this up. What we have decided is here on the end, we want to extend the overhang of the roof a bit more. So we will have to go out and buy probably 1 roof panel for that. But then if we come around inside, you can see the inside, we've got our lights that are solar hooked up in here that we had in the greenhouse itself. Let me back up here without falling backwards into the greenhouse. And that's the end where the stove is going to go. So the stove will be right there in the middle. We still have to pick up our metal panels to put behind the stove to protect the wall. So we are going to do that. That'll be in the next stage. And we have the 2 windows in the wall that only went halfway on the back. So that's done. And let me take you around the outside. We still also have these solar panels to move. They're going to go up on the front of the roof. of this building. Let me back up. So we have this done as well. And this is going to be an awesome place to be able to have our stove and to bring things in from working on the garden, because as you can see, this leads right out into the garden. So with the garden right there, and I'll have a stove right here. I'm really thinking this is going to come in super handy. Really, really happy we've gotten as far as we have. We still have to do something to close in the peak over here, but we haven't quite decided what we want to do there yet either. But that'll all be looked at in the next stage. We've finished part 2, and now we're going to kind of go over what it is that we still have to come. There's more to do, quite a bit, but we're super excited with how far we've gotten.
Well, you know, we are going to be putting the solar panels up on the roof. I have to extend the overhang on the roof at each end, but I think it actually worked out that I didn't have that much of an overhang. Otherwise, it would have gotten in the way when I did the siding. What else?
We have to decide what we're going to do on the peak on the other end. We have to go pick up the metal panels that are going to be behind us over on the wall.
Yeah, that'll act as a heat shield for the stove. Then we have to get the rest of the stove piping to finish the piping from the stove out of the building and then up as a chimney and cap that.
Yeah, and right now here it is mid-July, and not too many places have any kind of stovepipe out at the moment. So that's kind of been giving us a little bit of an issue with finding what it is we're looking for. We also want to make sure that the area where the stove is going to go is as level as possible. We do have the ability on the legs of the stove to even it out a little bit, but we want to make sure that we have this nice and level for when we're cooking on it, so that we don't run into any issues with anything spilling.
Yeah,
or
having the stove
problem.
level is really kind of important when you're boiling anything, or or if we go to use it, let's say to cook off our maple syrup, just to make sure any liquids stay level on the top of the stove. So that's kind of important. And then after that, it's just kind of the interior, the functionality. We're going to have a box for wood and for cooking utensils and things like that. Just kind of designing how it's laid out that makes it the most functional.
Yeah, and for us, this whole space, our real push on this is trying to get everything done before canning season. Excuse me. So having everything in is going to be the key. Any final touches, any kind of making things look a little bit prettier, we'll worry about later. One of the big challenges we have is the stove is very, very heavy, and it is currently sitting on our porch, which is 5 steps down, another 2 steps down to get to driveway level.
And then 200 feet away from where it's got to be moved.
Right. So
we're waiting on some help for that. Once we get a few people here that can help us move the stove, we'll get that moved. As far as shimmying it around and getting it in exactly the right spot, me and Marilyn can handle that.
So excited to have an outdoor stove and an outdoor kitchen coming soon. And in the meantime, we hope you've enjoyed how far we've gotten so far. As we said, the only things we've purchased to this point were the, in the corner, the 2x4, 4x4 legs. So we purchased 6 of those, 6 8-foot 4x4s. And other than that, I think got the fur strips, because the building we took down, the fur strips that it had rotted, so we did need to replace those. Other than that, we've been using
4x4s, 2x4s, and all of the deck board that makes up the cladding for the outside. All of that has just been reclaimed from other people's projects that we've disassembled, taken all the nails and screws out of, taken all the staples out of, cleaned up, and repurposed. We didn't show you all of the cleanup, but that's the majority of when you're taking something apart, having to pull all the nails and screws out and getting it ready so that you could reuse it, so that when you're cutting the wood, you're not cutting into another screw or a nail or...
Yeah, which does occasionally happen when you find one that you didn't know was there. It was kind of buried in the wood, or especially on the panels that were what used to be deck board that we're using. Sometimes a screw, it would swell over the top and the screw had snapped off years ago, and you don't even realize it's there until you go to cut something and you get a little bit of a surprise. So
and a lot of the 2x4s had insulation stapled to them, so there were staples everywhere. I must have pulled 2 pounds of staples out of the 2x4s before we could get those cut and ready to use.
Yeah, and Steve even took some of the nails that had previously been holding the former building up, straightened those out. We were able to reuse those, as well as some screws that we already had left over from other projects we had worked on.
Yeah, the entire frame, I think, was put together with reclaimed nails and screws. I used a lot of our own screws when we did the siding, but those were screws we already had. Some of them were previously used and some were new.
So one of the biggest things in today's economy is making sure that you're making use of everything that you have and everything that you can get your hands on that may cost you some labor and some time, but doesn't necessarily cost you money. So in the theme of keeping it real, we've been showing you, it's the end of a hot, messy day today. This is who we are, this is what we do and how we live our life. So we're really happy that you've been able to share this time with us and follow along. And we can't wait for the next one.
The third video, we'll be wrapping things up, hopefully. We'll try to get all the finishing touches done. We'll go over all of those details as well. The solar, I know people are interested in how I have the solar hooked up, and I'll show you the components of that as I move them into their new location and get all that wired up. And then what we can also do is maybe tally our total cost, what it cost us out of pocket to build this, and give you a total cost on the project so that you can see putting something fairly substantial like this together doesn't have to cost you an arm and a leg. I think we're only in it so far maybe a couple $100.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, we'll get the total cost, the final cost for the project together, and then we'll give you a grand tour of the completed outdoor kitchen or summer kitchen.
Yep. So super excited to be able to use this when I start harvesting things out of the garden. We are loaded with tomatoes this year, which makes me super excited because we want to make a lot of sauce and a lot of salsa, and being able to do a lot of that cooking outside as opposed to in the house when heat index is over 100 some days is going to be a nice option.
So we'll see everybody in the next video, and hopefully we'll have all of this complete.
So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoy our videos and want to help us out, please like this video and subscribe. If you know someone who would like our videos, make sure to share, as this really helps our channel out. Again, thanks, and see you soon.